We'll call the meeting back to order. We are now back in open session. And I can report that we only discussed those items that were listed to go into closed session, which was I'm not sure of the actual possible land acquisition and plan or procedure. The clerk knows all the right words. I don't. Yeah, the clerk will do that.
Just to confirm, the council committee of the whole had proceeded into closed session to discuss proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land and a position, plan, procedure, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations.
And direction was given to staff in closed session. So now we're back to the notice of motion that we left when we went into closed session. And it has been suggested that perhaps we should defer the notice of motion pending the outcome of direction given to staff in closed session. So if someone would care to move that we defer the notice of motion. Shirley, thank you. Councillor Keaveney, seconded by Councillor Eccles. Any discussion? Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you, Ward Milne. Can I just get an understanding as to why? So the direction in close is giving staff direction. This is a open session notice of motion. In my eyes, gives open session kind of clarity to the public and transparency of whether or not the county's moving forward with the concept. So I'm just, if we can get clarity as to why the recommendation is to defer.
Okay, I'll ask the clerk to expand on that.
Just to your question, Councillor Nielsen, as Warden Milne noted, the direction was given to staff in closed session. So council could consider this motion and dispose of it at this time and vote on it, but it could end up being procedurally cleaner to defer it until the direction that was provided in closed session is brought back to council and then tie both of those pieces up at the same time.
So we're not changing anything. We've given staff direction as in closed session. Okay. All right, I'll call the vote. Oh, Councillor Gregg.
If I could have the clerk's department then just confirm that how that procedure would comply with our existing procedural bylaw, which is demonstrating the county in excess of $5,000 will require a staff report before consideration by committee of the whole. And I'd ask for a recorded vote, please.
Madam Clerk.
To your question, Councillor Craig, the section in the procedure bylaw you're referring to about the financial commitment, a staff report would come back to update council on the fulsome discussion that's been had here today, and will include reference to will include the items that are in the motion provided by Councillor Keaveney.
Okay. Recorded vote. We're ready for the vote. I'll ask the clerk to take the recorded vote. Oh, so just so we're clear, we're voting on whether to defer the notice of motion.
Councillor Mackey.
In favor?
Councillor Mackey is in favor. Councillor McKay is absent. Councillor Carlton. Councillor Carlton is in favor. Councillor Pringle. Councillor Pringle is in favor. Councillor Allwood. Councillor Allwood in favor. Councillor Nielsen. Councillor Nielsen is opposed. Councillor Patterson. Councillor Patterson is in favor. Counselor Dickert. Counselor Dickert is in favor. Counselor Kentner. Counselor Kentner in favor. Counselor Keaveney. Counselor Keaveney is in favor. Counselor Body. Counselor Body in favor. Counselor Gregg. Counselor Gregg opposed. Warden Milne.
In favor.
Warden Milne in favor. Counselor Dobreen. Counselor Dobreen in favor. Counselor Matrosovs. Counselor Matrosovs in favor. Counselor Bordigno.
In favor.
Counselor Bordigno in favor. Counselor Eccles. Counselor Eccles is in favor. Counselor Hutchinson.
In favor.
Counselor Hutchinson is in favor. That motion carries 80-13.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Well, here we are almost 2 hours into the meeting and we've got one item done. We're doing pretty well. I'm glad we don't have 3 or 4 of these every meeting. So we have no delegations. We have the next is the consent agenda. Are there any requests to remove any of those for separate discussion? Seeing none, if someone would care to move acceptance of the consent items, Counselor Nielsen, seconded by Counselor Pringle. Any discussion? Counselor Eccles.
I would like to pull 6B, please.
Okay, 6B has been requested for further discussion, so we are only voting on yes, on the Community Services Committee meeting. Counselor Gregg.
Thanks, Warden Milne. And just a quick question for staff or to the chair of the committee. We had earlier in the year about $500,000 of funding through one of those refunding sources that we applied to 14th Street, I think it was. And I'm just wondering, like, is there a policy or something that these get applied to? Like the
Counselor Dobreen.
Through you, Warden, are we speaking about a specific item? We haven't voted on whether or not we're accepting the consent items. Are we pulling an item? And then that item that we pull is normally added to the end of the agenda for discussion.
My apologies, you're correct. Counselor Gregg, do you wish to pull item 6B or 6A rather for further discussion? Is that what the one you were referring to? Sorry? Okay. So we're only voting on I've flipped my agenda here so many times. 6A. That's the only one remaining in consent at this point. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Number 7, items for direction and discussion. 7A, Grey Bruce Local Immigration Partnership Year 3 review. Someone's here to do the report. Topeka is here. Someone care to move that report? Counselor Nielsen, Counselor Carlton. Topeka, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Good morning, County Council. I'm here to provide an update on what has been happening through the Grey Bruce Local Immigration Partnership. And as you all know, how do we build a more welcoming and inclusive Grey Bruce, and how can we work together to make it easier for newcomers to settle here? These are the questions at the heart of Grey Bruce Local Immigration Partnership. And we work closely with our partnership council member, which is now over 66 community partners and organizations, including all 17 municipalities in both Grey and Bruce counties. We collaborate with our partnership council members on newcomer-focused initiatives, including coordinated services, community research, planning, and other activities that support welcoming communities' characteristics. The partnership works to build capacity, strengthen community, foster inclusion, and cultivate prosperity. Included in this report is an overview of the major projects and accomplished realized in year 3 of our 5-year program. While there are many accomplishments, I'd like to speak only to 3 of three of those in particular. The first one is Train the Trainer program. As per the strategic plan, equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging was the key priority of our plan for 2022-23. To achieve this priority, we received additional funding from Immigration, Refugee, and Citizenship Canada for a pilot program for 18 months to initiate conversations for a more inclusive and welcoming communities. During the phase 1 and 2, Train the Trainer, an EDI curriculum was developed and co-created by a consultant and 11 local residents. The trainees developed workshop facilitation skills and experience while shadowing the consultant in mock delivery of the conversation through 2 GBLIP Partner Council members, from where member gained understanding of crucial fundamental concepts related to elimination of discrimination, fostering inclusion, and creating brave space, microaggression, and unconscious bias. In phase 3, the remaining trainees, we were only able to retain 7 of them, worked in pairs to facilitate a total of 23 training workshops to 199 clients over the course of 3 months from January till March. The training received very positive feedback from participants ranging from senior municipal management to various frontline staff. Since the delivery, a number of organizations have reached out to further inquire about when the training will be happening, and we are hoping to have this to deliver 1 training to Bruce County Library staff in October and 1 in the November. The project was originally planned for 18 months and now has been funded to investigate continuation using a self-sustaining model. The second program is the positive messaging campaign. When a discrimination experienced by immigrants, visible minority, and indigenous people in a Great Bruce, an empirical study was conducted to better understand discrimination experiences. From that research, GBLIP, in collaboration with Huron County LIP and Gulf Wellington LIP, created and launched a positive messaging campaign. The campaign received an astounding 787,000, more than that, impressions across digital channels, and the campaign extended its impact beyond digital landscape, integrating strategic component of print, radio, and outdoor media to broaden its reach and appeal. You'll find t-shirts and posters proudly displayed around the county. You each have a folder as well on the desk, having that message. The third of it is World Education Services Immigrant Work Program. World Education Services is the organization that provides credential evaluation for international students and any immigrant planning to study or work in United States and Canada. Grey Bruce Local Immigration Partnership is selected as one of the 5 communities across Canada to join this immigrant work program. This is the phase 2 pilot of this program, and in response to the ongoing Canadian labor crisis, WES launched this immigrant work in specific to help community partners mobilize local employers to co-design solutions that help identify, recruit, hire, and retain local immigrant talent. We will be leveraging the expertise from the WES team to create and implement strategies to partner so that we can have immigrant talent resources best suited to our region. There are in total 23 foundational partners for the foundational group who are acting as a think tank for that. And they have developed a lean canvas in June, and now we are currently working on its implementation. We are very proud of the work we have been able to achieve across the region with the support of our partners, and we are honored to have been invited to speak at the upcoming national conference in Montreal, where we have been selected out of 280 workshop proposals, and our proposal is on rural lips, building capacity from within. This conference is mandatory as part of our contribution agreement and is fully funded by IRCC. We have also been invited to attend the annual convening organized by World Education Services Immigrant Work, which is a skilled immigrant integration program, will take place in Washington, DC in December. The conference opportunity is also fully funded, and it is to gather, discuss, and engage with practitioners, researchers, policymakers on best practices that boost the economic integration of immigrant talent. All from Canada, there are in total 8 communities who have been invited, and from states there will be 40 stakeholders and local community partners for this skilled immigration integration program. We are seeking your approval to attend both of out of provinces conferences. And that's it. And I'm happy to take more questions. Yeah.
Thank you, Deepika. That's exciting to know that we've been asked to come and share our knowledge, your knowledge, with many others in the immigrant community. Absolutely. Any questions for Deepika? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. The next one is an update on reconciliation and relationship building with First Nations, and our CEO is going to take that one. Someone care to move that report, please? Councillor Eccles and Councillor DeBreen.
Good morning, Council. And I am so pleased to be in front of you this morning to present the highlights of the report Reconciliation and Relationship Building with First Nations. Well, that was a bad thing to do, apparently. Can you be able to correct my terrible, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I turned it off and back on again.
Thank you. That's the time-honored tradition. All right, let me attempt this once again. I'll try and move my own slides. Okay, Sarah? Is that okay? Oh. Okay. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as council's aware, Grey County recognizes September 30th each year as the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, and acknowledges the 94 calls for action that were released by the Truth and Reconciliation Committee in 2015. We have a responsibility to demonstrate our commitment to advancing reconciliation in tangible ways. The county's undertaken many initiatives to build positive relations and understand what actions would be most beneficial. Of course, there's much more that we can do. I want to acknowledge first and foremost that today's report is by no means a comprehensive summary of the work that has been done. It's not an exhaustive look at all the different Indigenous communities, the organizations that serve them, or ways that the county can fulfill its reconciliation commitment. Later on in the report, I'll talk a little bit about the Gili Standing Strong document that's attached to this report. That document advises that collaborative work takes time, and to go slow, to listen, and to build meaningful relationships. And that's what's really underpinning this report today. Next slide. I'm going to start off a little bit by talking about Mawikwadong. While there are many organizations representing Indigenous people and providing cultural appropriate programming and support for them, one which the county has worked closely with is Mawikwadong. Mawikwadong is an Indigenous Friendship Center and part of the Ontario Federation of Indigenous Friendship Centers. Mawik is located here in Owen Sound. Indigenous Friendship Centers support the local Indigenous population with programs and services. And the county has collaborated with Mawikwadong on the development of the current facility that they occupy, on education, on training, on childcare programming, and so many other things. In 2020, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and the Ontario Federation of Indigenous Friendship Centers signed a declaration of mutual commitment and friendship at the AMO conference in August. Next slide. In 2021, so the following year, council directed county staff to develop a similar agreement with Mawikwadong locally. Unfortunately, this direction was provided to us just at the point that we entered into the pandemic in April of 2021. And I'm sorry to say that that agreement was not undertaken at that time. So today, what we are asking County Council to do is to consider formally recognizing and supporting the key tenets of the Declaration of Mutual Commitment and Friendship. By doing so, Grey County would acknowledge that Indigenous peoples reside and build community and resilience in municipalities across Ontario. We recognize the value of Indigenous knowledge and expertise to design, plan, implement, and evaluate public policy and programs that impact the well-being of Indigenous people is paramount. The responsibility that is taken by Indigenous Friendship Centers to meet Indigenous community needs. Next slide. And furthermore, the value of building relationships and partnerships with friendship centers to improve the quality of life of Indigenous people in their municipality and to work against racism, inequality, discrimination, and stigma within and between communities. Finally, that the exchange of information and skills within and between municipal governments and related associations contributes to improved understanding of Indigenous relations. I think that the principles in this declaration have been what have underpinned many of the actions that we have taken to date, but this would be an opportunity for us today to formally adopt this declaration and the principles therein. So moving on from there, the other program that Mawikwadong is involved with or has implemented is GIWI. And GIWI began in 2018 in response to urban Indigenous homelessness. And the document attached to the report is called Standing Strong Together. And it provides recommendations on how we can further collaborate, build bridges of understanding, and better recognize and support the culture of First Nations. Council is asked to consider formally supporting the recommendations, and staff will incorporate into work plans and processes going forward. And I know that both community services and economic development, tourism, and culture are already some way down this road. But with your support today, we'll formalize this and bring it across the entire county. Moving on from there, now I'd like to highlight some of the efforts the county has been making in support of greater understanding and reconciliation. I'll start off with Grey Roots Museum and Archives. Many of you would know that Petal Furness, the former museum manager, did some really wonderful work here, and that's been built upon and expanded greatly by Savannah, current manager Jill Patterson, and especially Grey Roots team member Stephanie McMullen. The museum, in partnership with Indigenous communities and with the contributions from elders and artists, brings Indigenous history and culture to life. We have had two significant and very well received exhibits, one called The Good People, Know Our Stories, Know Us, and more recently, the Soking Anishinaabe Present Our Stories exhibit. We've also heard at around the Horseshoe about the Indigenous Advisory Circle that has representatives from Saugeen First Nation and the Chippewas of Nawash. That circle meets quarterly with our staff to provide knowledge, guidance, and feedback on how best to tell stories and raise awareness in a culturally appropriate manner. We are currently working on considerations and improvements to the land acknowledgement that we'll be bringing forward to you soon. And also the Community Cultural Initiatives Fund that Council approved has supported a couple of initiatives. The Anishinaabe Cultural Experience at Cape Croker Park and the Gitchinami Wikwidong Reconciliation Garden in Owen Sound. And I think those are two things that were well received and that we can be very proud of. Moving forward, today, council's asked to support Grey Roots in building on their outreach and engagement with the Indigenous people by increasing access to stories and artifacts in our collections and offering this community admission at no charge at Grey Roots going forward. Moving on from there, relationship building, programming, and reconciliation efforts are happening all across the county, as I've said. Community services staff, for example, have participated in and sponsored training and events to raise awareness and enhance their program delivery, but aren't specifically mentioned in the report. I did mention the planning department and the work that they've done. Certainly, the creation of the county's official plan, Recolor Grey, involved significant consultation and recognition of Indigenous communities. We do circulate all of our planning applications and report back on the information that we receive through that. And at this time, the planning department is working in consultation with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation and others in the development of an archaeological master plan. And I know that Scott would be more than happy to give you some information about that if you're interested. But I think this is an important work, both for ourselves, but to the development of the for the benefit of the development community and First Nations to understand where there are areas of archaeological significance. Moving on from there, our climate change action plan is another document that the county's developed more recently that really does reflect a significant consideration of Indigenous peoples' knowledge, knowing that is central to it, both a thorough understanding of climate change, both its impacts and the potential mitigation strategies that we might undertake. The Climate Change Action Plan commits the county to meaningful collaboration with SON and other Indigenous communities as we move forward. And it's the climate change group, and through the resources that you've provided to it, has then been able to provide support for knowledge sharing and learning events. And there are a number of future projects that are under development with respect to things like tree planting, which is a very important part or goal of our climate change action plan, shoreline protection, water quality, etc. So moving on from there, some potential future initiatives, as I've mentioned, the collaboration with the SON Environment Office on environment and climate change related initiatives, some consultation with SON regarding their goals for the Mountain Lake property that we transferred to them recently. The development of an Indigenous Affairs advisor or liaison position. I see this as something that would be somewhat further out in the future and would require really a fulsome discussion around this table. It's something that a number of other municipalities in the province have implemented and have found some real benefit to having done, but it's something that we want to explore carefully in the Grey County context. But I do put that out there. And finally, another idea was around whether or not should we decide to proceed with a Grey Bruce paramedic program intake in Owen Sound, whether the allocation of space for an Indigenous student or students in that future program would be well advised. There's so much here that we can do, and I've only touched on a little tiny portion of the work and the collaboration that's happening. But I'm happy to answer any questions about the recommendation that's before you this morning. Thanks.
Thank you, Kim. And just to add real briefly to your report, many times the former chief of Six Nations said to me that the key to all of this is to be a friend before you need a friend. And all of this work, all of the work that all of us are doing, I think builds on that key statement. So, are there any questions regarding the report? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Kim. Moving on to report 7C, it's regarding EV charging infrastructure and clean fuels. Rebecca is here to give the report. Can someone please move to receive the report? Councillor Pringle, Councillor Matrosovs. Rebecca, welcome. There you go.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. Perfect. I'm delighted to be here today to present the EV charging infrastructure and clean fuels report. This report relates to two funding opportunities that we can use to advance our zero emission vehicle strategy for our fleet. I'm going to start by talking about the charging infrastructure opportunity. So we're looking to get level 2, which are sort of medium speed chargers for our transport depots and our administration building. Now, these chargers would be for light duty fleet vehicles such as pickup trucks and FUVs. These are vehicles that would be parked to charge overnight. We're not currently looking at these chargers to work for heavy duty vehicles such as ambulances or snowplows that have a 24-hour service and travel long distance. So this is just for light vehicles to begin with. And we're looking to put them in the transport depots as well as some at the administration building as a pilot for public charging. So there will be some at the administration building that will be available for the public or for staff to see how that works for us. And then we could potentially put in more public charging at Brewery Roots and Sydenham campus if that's something that's working well and we want to continue doing. So this project would support the Corporate Action 8, which is zero emission vehicle fleet adoption, which is outlined in Going Green and Gray. 24% of municipal energy spending and 38% of the GHG emissions are from fleet and equipment. And because of the long lifespan of some of these vehicles, 7 to 12 years, it's really recommended that the county begin this transition to zero emission vehicles as soon as possible. We have a net zero target to reach by 2045, as well as some intermediate targets, say 40% by 2030. So that would be within the lifespan of vehicles that we're currently looking at purchasing. Now, Transport Services is investigating what light duty electric vehicles are currently available. It's a very dynamic market at the moment. So pricing, performance, battery life, different manufacturers, it's a very changing environment. So we're hoping to nail down some facts, bring up some case studies, and really have a good recommendation to make by 2025 as to what EVs exactly we need to buy. So some of the things we're considering are seasonal battery life, stationary battery life, maintenance costs, charging costs, maintenance, emissions reductions, seasonal mileage if things change during the winter or summer, and really to get to the core of what's the best use of electric vehicles for Grey County. We're also reviewing some options for those heavy duty vehicles, including hydrogen fueled vehicles, but that research is a little less progressed at this time. And we're hoping that the timing will work out well in that if we get the charging infrastructure approved and put in now, then when we're ready to buy a vehicle, we have the chargers ready to go. So we have the charging and the vehicles at the same time. So we received, just getting back to the charging infrastructure. So we received a really great report in February of this year from AECOM about our long-term charging needs for a full electrification of our fleet. And they outlined the need for both level 2 and level 3 chargers in our transport depots. Now, we also found out that to install those level 3 chargers would require upgrades to the electrical grid. So at this point, would be quite an investment. So we're looking right now to do the level 2 chargers that are compatible with that direction. So there was an alternative suggestion where we could stay with only level 2s and not do the level 3s as a long-term strategy, or do a mixture of both. So the chargers that I'm proposing today are they fit into both of those strategies. So it's long-term, we will want level 2 chargers in these locations. So what we're looking at is 2 chargers in the Ayton depot, 6 chargers in the Chatsworth depot, 6 chargers in the Clarksburg depot, and 6 chargers at the administration building, 2 of which would be for fleet and 4 of which would be for public or staff. And that brings us up to the total of 20, which is the minimum required for an application to the ZVIP program from NRCan. And this program will fund up to 50% of project costs, up to $5,000 per level 2 charger. So they will fund a maximum of $100,000 towards this project. And eligible costs include things like staff time, professional fees, capital equipment, installation. So it's a really all-in project. They don't just buy you the chargers, it's the whole process of getting them installed and working. So the matching from Grey County would also be $100,000 to match the NRCan funding. And it would be divided between the facilities, depots, and domes reserve would pay for the ones at the transport depots, and the administration building reserves would pay for the ones at the administration building. And then when it comes to a procurement strategy, we're really recommending that we do a turnkey solution. There's several providers that offer this. At some point, Grey County staff may have the expertise to source and maintain and potentially even install chargers. But at this point, we are new to this, so we'd like as much help as we can get. So we're looking for a single provider that would source, install, and keep our chargers in good working order for a certain amount of time, so that we have one person to call. If there's anything that goes wrong, it's one contract, it's one company who's responsible for the whole thing. So we're also hoping that we can bring on some of our member municipalities to join us on this ZVIP application. It's quite a bit of work to put together a funding application, and if we can have member municipalities piggyback their project onto this application and get the funding, that would be excellent. So we're looking for projects that are ready to go that we can sort of just slot into our application. So we would need approval by their councils for any of the funding that's not covered by ZVIP. We'd need a technical assessment of the site to make sure it's actually feasible to put the charger that they want to put in the place they want to put it. And willingness to be included in that procurement policy so that we're doing one procurement for the whole project. We're not doing different working with different companies for different projects. So that covers pretty much what I have to say about the chargers and the ZVIP application. The other project that I'm looking to advance is a education and awareness funding from NRCan, which is available to fund projects that really educate Canadians in all kinds of ways about zero emission vehicles. So I'm looking to build on some momentum that's currently happening locally about clean hydrogen. I'm hoping to create an event modeled on something that was hosted by the city of Greater Sudbury, which is called Mines to Mobility, which brought together the mining industry as well as automotive suppliers to really figure out the supply chain between mining critical minerals and putting them into EV batteries. I think that we have a potential to do that here with having local sources of hydrogen, figure out what the producers need, what the consumers potentially want from the suppliers, and how to put that put all of those pieces together, building on the work that was done at Hydrogen Optimized last week, that first sort of bringing together of the parties to figure this out. we have a really unique opportunity here. I recently found out one of the biggest barriers to adopting hydrogen is the lack of local production, which we don't have that problem. So we potentially have the opportunity to really be leaders in this space and innovators and really find out, first of all, use this conference as an opportunity to discover what is possible and what we can do and what others are doing, and then potentially be a leader in this space in our own operations. So thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you, Rebecca. Any questions? Counselor Body.
Thank you. I have a more of a comment than question. Approximately a year and a half ago, I went out to Edmonton to a fuel cell and hydrogen conference. And at that, they're saying that most of the long haul vehicles and big power vehicles, snowplows, those types of things will be on hydrogen going forward. They're using hydrogen and a fuel cell, which creates electricity, and it's run on electric motors, but they can run longer and run with more power than batteries alone. In the process right now are equipment that's being developed and being tested and coming quickly in the Edmonton area. That is an injection system that you can put onto your current diesel vehicles that can lower the greenhouse gas output by injecting hydrogen into up to, I think, 20% if I remember correctly. It's about $65,000. The federal government pays for about half of it. So potentially you could be running your ongoing diesel equipment that we have now partially on hydrogen and reducing the greenhouse gas output. Paul McGrath of the City of Owen Sound's written report will be sending it to all of the municipalities so that all of your engineering departments know what we're researching. Hydrogen optimized is spilling hydrogen back into the atmosphere right now, which of course it combines with oxygen and becomes water again. So it's not a gas. It's a safe thing, but they can be capturing it as they develop their equipment there. And we'd have the ability to use it. They're looking at applying for an ability to capture it, to tank it, to move it around the Graham Bruce region so we can take advantage of it. And their plan is to make that hydrogen as cheap as diesel. You actually get cleaner diesel running equipment because it's cleaner than diesel as far as clogging up the engine goes. You can get more power, longer power on hydrogen than you can on diesel. So there's really neat stuff happening. It's happening quickly. Certainly with things like Teslas, the batteries are ahead in the market and in the public knowledge, but hydrogen's pretty important. It's important in Europe. You sent me something on Daimler Benz doing trucking across Germany, I think, or someplace in Europe that's on hydrogen already. So that's coming really quickly. We're going to have an opportunity in Graham Bruce to have a leg up over anyone else almost in the world with hydrogen optimized here using that and us being able to take advantage of it. So that's my comment. It's coming and we need to be ready.
Thank you, Ian. Yeah, it was pretty exciting last week at just up the street here at the Optimizer event. As some of you may know, I've been after Enbridge for a while now to get more gas into our eco park in Southgate. I said to these guys, well, forget that. Let's run a pipe south to Southgate and we can burn hydrogen. But anyway, that's a piece in the distance. So to bring it all back to Rebecca's report, Councillor Gregg.
Thanks, and through you, Warden Milne. Quick question just on the meter stations. Well, I've already preempted my question by saying meter. The recharging stations. In Owen Sound, we placed one at City Hall. It's been a great success. We've got a fleet so far of 3 vehicles using it, but we had concerns from taxpayers about the general public using it and it being free for them. And we were blessed with someone advertising and covering the cost of that for us. Are there meters on these stations? Is that contemplated And certainly it's something I believe we should be doing so that I think it's fair. What's the real cost is the cost of travel and consumption itself. And electricity is not going to get cheaper. It's going to get a lot more expensive as there's more and more demand on it. So I'm just wondering, what's the consideration on metering and payment stations as part of this? Because I think we should have it.
Got the mic this time. Yeah, for sure. So I believe that all chargers come with the ability to be metered, and we would certainly put that in as part of the RFP, that we would need a charger that was able to be metered. Exactly how much we're charging and who we're charging it to and how that all works is going to be something that we would figure out as part of that public charging pilot. The wisdom is that it should not be free necessarily. But we would figure out, is it, how do we make sure that we've got our staff able to, like, is it staff charging? Is it fleet charging? Is it general public charging? Are there different rates for that? How do we make sure that people have the right, key card to, if your staff, maybe you swipe your key card, or if you're charging a fleet vehicle? It's a few logistical pieces to figure out, but certainly the ability to charge the public for use of the public chargers will definitely have the ability. It's just, we would probably come back with a further report recommending exactly how that logistics and details of how that would work.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor DeBreen.
Through you, Warden, not so much a question, but more of a comment. Just from this agenda alone, I've been inspired by just how Grey County looks for innovative and progressive ways to make a difference, whether that's through EV charging stations, electrifying our vehicles, housing options, and our immigration partnerships. People are watching beyond our borders as to what Grey County is doing. And I think that we're not swayed by that it's never been done, but that we ask the question, why not, and how can we help make it happen? So it's not a question, Warden Milne, but I'm just really inspired by the work that Grey County as a whole, including its lower tier municipalities, are open to everything. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yes, we are. No, it's not why, it's why not. Any other questions? Call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Rebecca. So we have one item remaining. Oh, wait. We go back to consent item 6B, Cycling and Trails Master Plan Preliminary Implementation. Someone care to move that be received for information? Councillor Matrosovs and Councillor Alwood. Councillor Eccles, you want, or Savannah, you go through the report first, please.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Warden. And I do have Sean Potter with me today, in case you have any technical questions, because I definitely cannot be the one to answer those for you. But we thought it's been a really long time since we talked to you about Cycling Trails Master Plan, and there's been a lot of behind the scenes work going on, trying to figure out how do we start with this project. So over the last 18 months, we have been talking with our insurer. We have been talking with all of your senior leadership in each and every member municipality to figure out where everybody stands, where their support is. And I can tell you it is varied. We have some very eager municipalities. We have some others that need some time to think about it. And we have others that just don't want to engage at this time. And that's okay. We were just looking for an answer to figure out, how do we start this project? Through the conversations that we had with our insurers, we did learn that the signage that we're proposing, which is included in the report, the route signage and the share the road, should really be looked at as educational. So there were a lot of questions around liability and does signing cause additional liability? But what we learned was that cyclists are already on your road. So this is education on the spot, reminding everybody that it is their joint responsibility to share the road. So that is what we're going to go ahead with. We also learned that we're okay to start and stop signage wherever it is supported. So we know if we we wanted, we could go out and sign all of Grey County roads with the signage and the funding that we've received from the federal government to do so. And we could stop at each municipal border if that's what was required. That does not leave a very good experience for those who are on the road. So we don't want to take that approach. We would rather work with the municipalities who are supportive at this time and look at what loops we can create between county roads and municipal roads, and then wait and see if there's other support that comes down the pipeline, or we can just look at share the road signage, because that really is educational key. In terms of marketing promotion, through conversation with both our off-road cyclist group, which Bill is here with us today as well, and a couple other members from across the county, with the insurers and with our member municipalities, there was a lot of conversation too about the marketing promotion side and what you do to prepare the cyclists before they ever get on the road. So looking at the promotional brochure that we already have for cycling, to update the language in there and talk about the different environments that you will come across. Talk about the fact that we do not maintain bike lanes to a bike lane standard. They are closed during the winter. You have to be prepared for reroutes during construction season and all of those good things to do a better job at preparing that education up front. So that is something we're going to commit to in 2024. We did not redo the cycling brochure this year because we didn't have that agreement across the municipalities, and we wanted to make sure that we had a good foot to stand on before we went forward. So that work will happen in 2024. And we're also going to put some educational toolkits together, because that was something our municipalities were all very interested in, knowing that cyclists are already on the road. What can we do to collectively message and co-brand any cycling information and education? The other part that's not included in the Cycling and Trails Master Plan, but we field a lot of questions about trail cycling and trail access, because not everybody is comfortable being on a road as a cyclist. So knowing that it's also something that families like to use, almost all of our municipalities have invested heavily in community trails. What can we do collectively to talk about the CP Rail Trail that we've just done a significant investment in, talk about your community trails, and put together a brochure about a fulsome cycling and trails, whether it's on road or off road. So that is something that we'd like to include in 2024 work plan and our budget, which we would bring back for further consideration at budget time. But we did have a lot of support municipally for that, because together we have a much stronger voice to be able to talk about the trails that we have and promote that active transportation. So all this report to say is that we'd like to take a phased approach. We'd like to be able to start something, because we haven't done anything at this point, and it's been 3 years. So we would like to be able to at least start where we are supported. We will leave other municipalities alone. We do not want to tell you what you need to do. That is not the intent. So if you are not ready to talk about cycling promotion or signage or anything like that, that is okay. We are quite fine to move ahead elsewhere. And then if and when you're comfortable, we can always come back and look at what additional routes we can develop. So we're looking to start with those trails. We will update our GIS mapping, we'll update our brochures to take off the roads where we don't have fulsome support at this time. And that way we can start the project at least and see where we go from there. But the education is definitely something, regardless, that we did here across the board, is something that everybody would like. So that we do want to commit to through 2024 work plans. So if you have any other questions, Sean or I are happy to answer.
Thank you, Savannah. Maybe if we just had more Pat's paved shoulders, it would simplify things, wouldn't it? Yep. Councillor Eccles.
Yes, it probably wouldn't take as much gravel along the edge of those where it seems to blow off quite a bit too, Pat. We could do that. That would be wonderful. And some of those potholes that are at the corners too, for the bikers that they don't have to go into. My question on this was, I guess, more towards that liability. And if we're just on the education, because I'm very aware of Bruce County and what they went through with their off-road cycling and everything that happened there. It doesn't seem that the courts have taken it that any signage, any amount of paperwork that's signed that you're not responsible. I don't know how many millions it was that the Bruce County case cost Bruce County on their off-road project up there a number of years ago. It just, you had mentioned that through that, and this was just more education. I guess it's the liability of
us having it on the roads, but I don't know whether there's as many recreational cyclists on the roads that we'll see, but certainly in Southgate and Chatsworth, West Gray, we see a lot of certain population that uses bicycles and foot pedal scooters on our roads an awful lot. So just that we're in the early stages of this. I don't want us to get way into it and find out there's way too much liability on this. The roads are there, they can be used. I don't know how much paper brochures we need, because I don't know whether bicyclists, and I'd like to maybe ask Councillor Greg, who bicycles quite a bit. If we have it on GPS, seems like everybody carries a cell phone and whatnot for navigation. My comment.
Savannah, do you have a response?
Sure, thank you. Through you, Mr. Warden. Yeah, so from the insurance perspective, what we were told was they're on your roads anyways. You cannot stop a cyclist from taking to your roads. So this is that on the point education piece for both cyclist and for driver. And that was something that we heard through the off-road cycling group that we talked with as well, was that there was, you know, awareness and respect that both cyclists and drivers both need the education about sharing the road. So that was something that we did learn from the insurers. And on the brochure side, you'd be very surprised. We go through 30,000 brochures a year on cycling. So we are currently out. We have no more, but that's how many people pick up. Cycling is a big deal in Grey County. A lot of people come here and a lot of people look to use our beautiful views and our beautiful roads to cycle. So we do know that there is interest, and that's why we want to make sure we get that right when they're looking at it. It's also available on the website, but paper brochures are a big thing in Grey County.
Thank you, Savannah. Councillor DeBreen, and then Councillor Body.
Through you, Warden Milne, just one comment. We talk about sharing the road. We talk about in our communities, we have a variety of people who use our roads. And we do have signage in Southgate specifically that share the road with the horse and buggy community. So I'm just wondering if the signage will be targeted in the same area as, you know, if there's a sign that says share the road with the horse and buggy community, that and bicycle, and it's just a comment to Councillor Eccles' point. We have a variety of uses in our communities.
Thank you for that. Through you, Mr. Warden. I can steal a little bit of thunder from our Ag Advisory Committee because we were going to go back and give them the update first, but since you asked, I will provide the update here. We heard loud and clear in our Ag Advisory Committee I guess it would be a couple months ago now, the share the road was a really important concept that we needed to spend more time educating on for cyclists, for buggies, and for farm equipment. And that it was a very significant mental health strain on our farming community as well. So what you will start to see pop up in the next couple of weeks are billboards right across Grey County that talk about share the road. Some have cycling images, some have horse and buggy images, and some have tractor images, as well as radio campaigns that will be taken to the airwaves. So we listened, we heard, and we want to continue with that work. The signage here is specific to cycling, but the share the road message, we can certainly expand beyond.
Thank you for that, Savannah. Councillor Body.
Thank you, Warden Milne. Just to respond to Councillor Eccles, I'm looking. The Bruce County law case was about their mountain bike adventure park, which had obstacles and things that were set up by the county, and they invited people to participate in it. It wasn't just straight riding on a trail that raised the liability, more the fact that they put in obstacles that people could try and then potentially didn't have the safety things around them. So not quite the same thing as what we're talking about here.
Good point. Any further questions? Councillor Gregg.
I guess just a couple of things, but I will note there's a possibility that the county took a lawsuit from a road cyclist many years back from in a certain part of the county too, and I won't comment on whose fault, but so there is a liability concern. I'm aware of as many motorcyclists, motorcyclists are more inclined to get hit by vehicles than I am cyclists. Just a quick question to Savannah, I guess, just in terms of the budget resources, are we talking something like that? It's $3,800 a year? Are we talking something that's $38,000 a year? My only concern is perhaps it's getting a little bit dated. The current trend right now is gravel bike riding, gets you off the busier roads. The great thing is in Grey County, I can do 50K and not see a car. The rail trail is not in great condition right now from Chatsworth to Berkeley. It's good for ATVs, but it's not as good and it gets torn up, so it's less enjoyable for cyclists. So I guess a lot of cyclists, they're enjoying the gravel. Technology's there that everyone's using it. I can upload the route I want to ride in my watch. That's pretty prevalent for people that are traveling and knowing they're keeping track of it on GPS. So do you consider perhaps looking for sponsorship when you're doing the paper brochures? And if there's one growth industry, it's e-bikes. So I guess if there's somewhere where we should be turning ourselves, if we're going to put an economic development angle on it, perhaps we look to excel in the e-bike world, because that's with our aging community, that's what everybody's gravitating to. So I guess those are my comments. The one question there is, what's the budget allocation we use?
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Warden, are you talking about the printing piece specifically, like the design and the printing, or the signage themselves? The signage is federally funded, so that's a one-time cost that covers all of the expenses for our county roads as well as the municipal roads. So technically we could pay for all of the signage, but we're only going to buy the signage with the municipalities who are willing. And then if decisions are made down the road and other municipalities are on board, then we'll still be able to buy those signs until the funding runs out or the allocations run out as of December 31st. And then on the brochures, the development and the printing, it's a $20,000 budget annually that goes towards waterfalls, cycling, our regional map. So it's a shared. We've never looked at sponsorship as far as I can tell in the past. We typically don't go out for sponsorship because it's like asking taxpayers to pay again. So we've typically included that within the budget, and the budget that we have is in here right now, and we'll be asking to move it forward to next year. So we're not re-budgeting for that piece that's in there.
So the part I'm referring to is all project expenses related to signage and updates. The cycling brochure were included in the approved 2023 budget. What's that approximate sentence referring to?
Sure. Through you, Mr. Warden. The signage cost is approximately $40,000, which is 100% federally funded. That was included in the capital budget. And then the brochures printing cost and design cost is $20,000 annually in the budget, but covers more than just the cycling brochure itself.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Oh, Councillor DeBreen, go ahead.
I know that we have one more item, I believe, to go into closed session, but I'm just going to excuse myself for a moment.
Okay, thank you. So we do have one closed meeting item left. So I need a motion or a mover to do that regarding litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege. More specifically, Thornbury Acres plan of condominium. Someone care to move that, please? Go into closed session. Councillor Eccles, Councillor Keaveney. All in favor? That is carried.